that's really my main mission with it, is visibility, and that we start supporting all drivers. That's the one thing you see at all the shows. Everybody says, we're hiring drivers, we're hiring all drivers, we love all drivers. You see, that's a campaign, that's a thing that everybody does. You see it as you walk through mats, you see it. But how true is it?
That was the voice of Cliffside Transportation Services operator Bobby Coffey-Loy, hauling in a team with his husband, Ricky. And in one of a couple of dozen or so rigs, Cliffside is dedicated to XPO logistics freight in the network. Coffey-Loy was speaking to the mission of his and co-founders LGBTQ Truck Driver Network, established within the last year and engaged in a variety of support efforts for operators all around the nation. I'm Todd Dills, and for this edition of the Overdrive Radio podcast, we're going to sit down on a conversation I had with Bobby Coffey-Loy at the 50th anniversary of the Mid-America Trucking Show last month, where the LGBTQ network made its truck show debut to the delight of plenty at the Kentucky Exposition Center there. The group's Mardi Gras beads were a hit. I saw scads of folks walking around the show floor wearing them, likewise rainbowed up lanyards for attendee badges you'll hear Coffey-Loy talk about. Before we get there, though, he spoke to the Ricky and Bobby team at Cliffside Run, and yeah, they get no small number of Ricky Bobby jokes when they introduce themselves together. Reference to the Talladega Nights Will Ferrell comedy. They put on the miles for sure, but at speeds much lower than, well, Ricky Bobby.
We do high value pharmaceutical. Okay. So we actually most of the time we drive an ARI sleeper, so we have like one of the big house on wheels. Okay. We barely ever stop, and then so we basically are like from point A to point B all the time, going from secure lot to secure lot. So and then we also drive the we just recently last month put all the logos for XPO Pride down the side of the truck. Okay. XPO is such a very inclusive company. They have their own diversity program. They have a lot of leading edge when it comes to all that stuff, worldwide technically for them. I love working there.
As noted at the top, Ricky and Bobby Coffey-Loy haul for Cliffside Transportation Services, to be exact, exclusively running XPO logistics managed freight, Bobby noted.
And he's very inclusive as well. He's very much for being diverse, and he loves all of his drivers, and he's supportive. He's paying us to be here even, a lot of people wouldn't do that, but working for someone that supports what you're doing and supports what you're doing, that's really important to me.
How many folks are working for him? About
he owns a company, and then he owns a separate company. Okay. So I know he has, I think it's 70 trucks on the company and about 30 trucks at XPO.
And about that big-bunk truck Bobby hauls in, find pictures of it via the post that houses this podcast at overdriveonline.com/overdrive-radio. The 2020 Volvo has been something of a life changer for the operator, as you'll hear shortly. It's not the only one at Cliffside Transportation Services either.
It's either 15 or 20, I think, of the big ARI sleepers.
Good, wow.
So he accommodates us pretty good. He's actually getting ready to buy us another new one. Okay. And so he...
What is the truck?
Huh?
Tell me about the truck.
The truck, we have a Volvo, and I think ours is 156 inch.
Okay, wow, that's a big one. Yeah.
So it's just like the ones you see in the show in there.
Oh yeah.
And and that changes your life up a little bit. Like I was 326 pounds, and I'm now down to like 240.
Oh, wow.
So
that is not easy.
It's really hard being a trucker. It's being a trucker that you gain weight. It's very common.
Sure, yeah.
So for me, it's just been a thing of mindset. I eat whatever I want. I just don't eat the same portion sizes. Yep. Having the access to a kitchen makes a total difference. I try not to eat out, but like once a week. We would rather cook on the truck. And that makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Before we dive fully into that conversation, though, let's pause to remember a giant among owner-operators lost. My own interaction with Randy Cunha over the years wasn't extensive by any means, but I'll say that when we spoke attendant to my reporting on heavy specialized hauling in the spring of 2020, just as Cunha was winding down his own business toward retirement, the man I spoke to then was clearly an incarnation of the very best in the business of trucking as an owner-operator. He'd become that after a career that spanned 5 decades and ended on a nice high note, with a run of very good years under his own authority, heavy and oversized permits and all. In what follows, you'll hear a little more about that directly from a man who knew him much better than I.
This is an Overdrive Extra. I'm Long Haul Paul. A hard year on heroes. Remembering longtime specialized owner-operator Randy Cunha. Tonight there will be little sleep to speak of. News of a friend's passing these days moves at the speed of 5G. Randy Kemosabe Cunha, 74, succumbed to injuries sustained in an Arizona motorcycle crash he had been involved in March 18th. He fought valiantly for over a month, but passed away on April 20th. Kemosabe was a living embodiment of an axiom attributed to writer-philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson. The only way to have a friend is to be one. I found myself going through old messages I had saved from the recently retired heavy hauler late into the night. It was around 5 years ago, back when I practically knew everyone who owned one of my CDs by their first names when he reached out. He had been deep in the weeds, decoding my lyrics, full of the stories from the old days. A veritable library of trucking lore. He would tell me the story behind the Santee truck stops, how the sheriff and his wife owned the 2 most infamous stops of that area, one of which was the Rebel. He spoke of how it burned down in 1970. He wanted to make sure he understood every line of every song. Kemosabe was at the top of his game then, still as spry as most men 20 and more years his junior. At 70, he would reboot his old authority and run independent under Tonto Express, and he would become the subject of one of my first published articles for Overdrive. But Kemosabe became well more than just the subject of a story for me. He was a true friend. Back when he was having trouble with that enhanced 650 cat of his, he washed up at our place for a couple days. Bought an $800 car from my neighbor and somehow got that old Pete down to Kentucky where he knew of a shop that could get him lined out. Then he drove that car all the way home to Texas. The old 82nd Airborne paratrooper always seemed able to effortlessly execute an exit strategy for any tough situation. Then there was 4 Christmases ago, when a card came in the mail from Kemosabe and a dear friend of his who asked to remain anonymous. There was this insanely generous check in there, and a note to the effect that it would sure be nice to hear some new recordings. Our well had gone out that year, and we were low on money. The gesture brought my wife to tears. It was sometime around the beginning of the pandemic when Kemosabe sold out and retired. This was not easy for him. As he told me more than once, speaking to the importance of his trucking business, "This is my life." We had a few talks then. The craft of trucking had been his one thing. It had given his life center and focus. Now his truck was sold and he was going in too many directions, he said. For someone who had attained the apex of his vocation, leaving it all behind was a tough row to hoe. So somehow, as tough as it is to see him go, the manner in which we lost him is not completely unsurprising. He described himself to me once as a seenager. That is, a teenager trapped in the body of a senior citizen. He was, after all, 82nd Airborne, whose motto was, all the way. And so he was, in friendship, in life, and in death. So long, faithful friend. You were a good hand.
So long, Kimosabe. My condolences to all the family.
My name is Bobby Coffey-Loy, and I am the founder of LGBTQ Truck Driver Network, and I work with my husband over the road. We've been together 14 years and been driving for 5 years together. So if we can survive in a cab together without killing each other, then we can pretty much get through anything. We live right at, just north of Tampa and in Newport Richey. And the group, it came together first as a social media group just to provide a place to chat, a place to talk for people to that are of LGBTQ, and then also people who are allies of the community. It represents everybody, whether it's race, sexual orientation, color. It doesn't matter. We all just come together to provide a non-biased, non-judgmental space for people to chat with each other. We get a lot of people who are lonely. They're in their truck, and that's a common thing that happens with drivers. Is suicide rate is high. A lot of people when they go on the road don't have families, or if they do have families, they're very separated from their families. So mental health is really important. And so we get a lot of people that we talk to. We're not professional when it comes to, being some sort of a counselor or anything, but we do try to get people the help that they need. But sometimes just having that ear to talk to. And then at the very beginning, we had a really dear friend of ours that started the organization with me. He passed away in his truck.
What was his name?
Doug Mosier. And when Doug passed away, it just hit me really hard. It's been 6 months ago now, and I didn't realize, I wasn't aware of how many drivers die in their truck. And so we started doing this Life 360 app thing and just using apps to be able to check in on each other and things like that. So we started, because of it, I started making, our t-shirts and stuff to get ready for this event. And then I was like, we came across some car charms and different things. And I was like, we had sent his wife, who's also a driver, we had sent her a car charm and a t-shirt, a memorial shirt, basically. And so that's one of the programs. It just kind of came about because we lost somebody. So what we'd like to do, we've talked to a couple other organizations that or help families get the driver home when they pass away. So we've asked them to actually refer the information to us if the family's okay with it, because we would like to start sending a memorial t-shirt and a condolence letter out to families, because once a driver passes, if there's nobody else in the family that's a driver, it just stops there. So we spoke with different ones that get drivers home.
Yeah, right.
And inclusive to all drivers. That way that, because I want to do a memorial condolence letter and send it to people's families. And I just feel that's an extra step, to make them feel a little bit better. And, because a lot of people don't realize how many people pass away in their truck. I didn't think about it until it really affected me, and you get those things, there's like out of sight, out of mind type thing. And but once it affects you and you've lost someone, I hadn't thought about it. I just thought that was an extra token from the trucking community, and it has nothing to do with whether you're LGBTQ. It's just all drivers inclusive. So that's really my main mission with it, is visibility, and that we start supporting all drivers. That's the one thing you see at all the shows. Everybody says, we're hiring drivers, we're hiring all drivers, we love all drivers. You see, that's a campaign, that's a thing that everybody does. You see it as you walk through mats, you see it. But how true is it? So it kind of was like in my mind, a mission. I was like, I want it to really be one day all drivers.
And by sort of being visible, I guess, with the network and being here at the shows, it's a way of furthering that.
Right, it is. But then like being here at the show even opened my eyes even more, because I started getting brokers and people that make some of the products in here that they have for sale, and all different areas of trucking, whether it be dispatchers, brokers, whatever. We've had so many people stop by and say, what, it's time. It's that someone's here. In 50 years, it's time that someone's here. And we've had a lot of people that stop by. They changed their lanyards to the LGBT lanyards and stuff, and it's just been really cool. It's a really neat little.
I didn't see that. Did you have those at the booth?
We ran out. Oh, yeah, we ran out because so many people wanted them. Yeah, we ran out.
How many did you bring?
I think there was like 150 of them.
Wow. Okay.
So, and I didn't think, because we were more of, I didn't think that we were going to have. I didn't think we was going to run out, I guess I should say, of some of this stuff. So we had can koozies, and we had like all kinds of t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. No, we weren't charging for anything. I just wanted to get the stuff out there for visibility, but we had keychains and just a wide variety of stuff. But I knew that we were, we make up a small portion of the industry. I know that right now they're, the last poll that was taken when they asked about that, it was right around 14,000 that identified. We've been here forever.
I know it.
Everybody's in every industry. But we, like I said, we do like a Life 360 app, and we've been using that app and created a group on there just so that we can check on each other. Does
that have it's like a kind of a tracker, right? But with
on your phone,
with community functions where you can kind of chat back and forth.
Yeah, and it doesn't cost anything. Yeah. So we just made like our own little group on it. You can add different functions, but so and I'm not endorsing them. It's handy. Yeah. It's handy, right. And so we can get our own app and stuff. That costs a lot of money to do all that stuff and design it. But it's definitely something I would like to adventure into at one point.
You guys have a website now?
Yeah. It's LGBTQ Truck Driver Network. Right. And our email is the same, LGBTQ Truck Driver Network. Right. Everything, we're just starting out. Yep. And we're in our first year of doing things. But to be able to be here in a first year and be able to afford it, and get all of the drivers here. We had 8 of our drivers here. Okay. So, and that's awesome to me. Yeah. So it's been really cool just having the support. But, the biggest validation of being here literally has been the people walking through. Right. People walking through and thanking us for being here. I don't know their sexual orientation. Right. But I have seen, drivers walk up and say, so many things, just thank you. It's a simple thank you. And that makes it all worth it.
And before we wrap up today, a bit of a personal note of thanks to all who listen here and who've listened since we started this so many years ago. In earnest now in the format you're used to since maybe 2017. The Overdrive Radio podcast won the Jesse H. Neal Best Podcast Award this week among some incredibly stiff competition among business journalism outfits covering all manner of industries. So again, for those of you who've listened, to those of you who've entrusted me with your story, to all the back-end contributors and mentors and musicians who've contributed to the production, to all of you, here's a huge and heartfelt thank you. Overdrive Radio is a production of Overdrive, the voice of the American trucker. It's edited and produced by me, Todd Dills, with the ongoing support of trucker songwriter and Overdrive contributor Long Haul Paul Marhofer, whom we heard from today. The podcast is backed up further by Overdrive news editor Matt Cole, social media coordinator Holly Young, and executive editor Alex Lockey. Until next time, keep it broad, guys.